At least 2 people have been killed during protests in some towns in Ethiopia, leaving more than 600 displaced. Activists from Oromo ethnic community who have been at the forefront of anti-government protests are accusing a police unit of carrying out the killings and human rights violations against the people. But government has blamed the clashes on a border dispute between the Oromo community and their neighbors. The conflict has been raging for months now, but escalated this week in violent confrontations. In August, the government lifted a 10-month state of emergency imposed following more than 2 years of anti-government protests. Well, staying in Ethiopia, the United Nations is urging for more investment in long-term projects to protect people in developing countries. This comes after a visit by heads of UN agencies to Ethiopia, where close to 9.5 million people are in need of food and clean water.
Ethiopia's Somali region has not had rain for 3 consecutive years. This has led to a devastating drought that has made its people experience emergency levels of hunger 1 level below famine and a 5-point scale used by food agencies. According to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, about 2 million animals have died here since the end of last year, crippling herding communities. While touring the region, the heads of the United Nations food agencies say more investment is needed in long-term projects to protect people in developing countries from drought.
One thing is for sure, we got to scale up. One thing is for sure, we cannot just continue going by a project approach. We have, as not only 3 of us, the 3 agencies, what I will call the whole development community, has to really look at ways. Obviously, we need to have much more synergy between the different actions. We saw colleagues from different NGOs as well. But globally, we need to scale up.
The heads of the UN food agencies said investment in irrigation, water points, rural financial institutions, health and veterinary services helps the communities to protect themselves and their livestock through even a devastating drought.
Water's the issue here. You have a drought, which means the cattle, the livestock suffer, which means the people suffer, which means there's hunger. That's the issue here. The World Food Program is feeding 3.3 million people on average per day in the Somali region, and it's because of a drought as a result of the change of the climate.
Eastern and Southern Africa were hit hard last year by drought exacerbated by El Nino, a warming of sea surface temperatures in the Pacific Ocean that wilted crops, slowed economic growth, and drove food prices higher.
What we're trying to do here is to save lives. And here, save lives of a community of pastoralists means also save their animals. Because without their animals, they will not have milk for their children. The children also will die or suffer.
A strong aid response almost halved the number of Ethiopians needing food aid to 5.6 million by January. But the drought was followed by poor spring rains in the south and east of the country. According to the United Nations, close to 17 million people across the Horn of Africa need humanitarian aid due to drought, including 2.6 million in Kenya and 3.2 million people in Somalia.
In Nigeria, more than 1 million people uprooted by Boko Haram's insurgency in the northeast are living in cholera hotspots after an outbreak of the deadly disease which is sweeping through camps for the displaced. A United Nations official says efforts to contain the outbreak are being hampered by the lack of a referral system to identify new cases. Health officials in Borno said it had over 1,000 suspected cholera cases as of September the 11th.
The main problem that we have been having is the fact that, when the people are sick, although we are spreading messages, when the people are sick, they don't proactively report, to the clinics. They don't proactively engage with humanitarian partners. So we have to do what we call active case finding, means that we have to go to find them in their houses.
Let's go over to Kenya now, where two politicians there, a ruling party lawmaker, Moses Kuria, and former opposition Senator Johnstone Muthama of the National Super Alliance Coalition, have been released over hate speech allegations. They were freed on bail on a 300,000 Kenya shillings, that's $3,000 bond on Tuesday at a court in Nairobi. Last week, Kuria gave a public speech calling for a manhunt for Odinga's supporters who had greeted the court ruling with jubilation, while Muthama, a former senator for the opposition, a Wiper Party, allegedly made provocative statements against President Kenyatta. Both candidates of the annulled ballot, incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta and veteran opposition leader Raila Odinga, also rose the temperature in public speeches on Monday, with Kenyatta telling a delegation that if Odinga was elected president, his party would impeach him within 3 months of assuming power. And still to come on Network Africa. President of the Central African Republic fires his defense minister. That's in a moment. Join us again.